Tonight's shir is on Memmale Kalalman and Sovev Kalalman. We'll get back to them later, but I want to say this at the very outset so that I sort of fix us into this space. The topic of tonight's shir is Memmale Kalalman and Sovev Kalalman, which means for all intents and purposes, we're going to not refer back to what we learned last week. We're not going to refer ahead to what we're going to learn in the next weeks. We're going to learn the shir as though it were an isolated discussion on Memmale Kalalman and Sovev Kalalman. The reason it's important for me to say this at the outset, because the order of the introduction of ideas, the way the Alter Rebbe introduces the ideas, makes it a bit difficult to follow. He's going to talk about Sovev Kalalman first, and then ask a question in Sovev Kalalman and introduce Memmale Kalalman. That's how it develops. So I feel that it's in everybody's best interest that I say at the outset, this is what's going to happen. So you should expect that we're going to be discussing Memmale Kalalman and Sovev Kalalman. I want to begin with this. There's a very interesting letter from the Rebbe Rashab, which is printed in his Igris. It was written to the previous Rebbe. The letter addresses the question of appointing in Lubavitch a Rosh Yeshiva. In other words, the letter is about 100 years old. More, 110 years old. When the yeshiva's Teim Chetmimim in Lubavitch was opened, they did not employ any staff to help the Bachrim with their learning, because they only took elder Bachrim who were in their early 20s. And at that time, boys of that age were completely self-sufficient. They sat in a Beis HaMedrash and learned day and night. They needed no supervision. They didn't even need teachers. What was unique about Lubavitch was that they provided them with room and board. They gave them Pashat food and a place to sleep and clothing if necessary, which was not the typical practice of yeshivas in that era. And most importantly, they did provide them with mashpiyim. In other words, for Chassidus, they did have instruction, because for the most part, these boys, as old as they were, did not have a comprehensive background in Chassidus, because they hadn't learned Chassidus until they were arrived in Teim Chetmimim at the age of 21 or 22 or whatever the case was. And the yeshiva provided them with very, very, very delicate and sensitive and precise care as far as Chassidus was concerned. But as Teim Chetmimim grew, the standards were lessened to allow for greater enrollment. Teim Chetmimim in its heyday was hundreds of students in Lubavitch alone, besides for the Snifim, for the other branches. And they had Bachrim of many ages and of many levels. Eventually they had the equivalent of Yeshiva Ketana, what we would call today a high school, and in Lubavitch they were called Chadorim. Pashat boys who sat in a classroom with a Malamed who taught them Torah. And even for the Alter Bachrim, the level of academic aptitude was less than it had been at the outset. In other words, they broadened the criteria for enrollment, and it became necessary to provide people to instruct the Bachrim in learning. So the previous Rebbe wrote a letter to his father suggesting that they hire a Rosh Yeshiva. And the Rebbe Rashab wrote him an answer. And I should know, I've showed this letter to some of the educators who I respected, and some of them would say, I was looking for such a letter, and others would get quite upset. And this is what the Rebbe Rashab wrote. And the letter is 110 years old. He says, 50 years ago, meaning 160 years from today, the students had a lot of bittul. They were very serious about their learning and very dedicated to their teachers, and had an enormous amount of respect and humility in the presence of their teachers. As a consequence, continues the Rebbe Rashab, the phenomena of a Rosh Yeshiva was a healthy system. What does a Rosh Yeshiva do? A Rosh Yeshiva teaches. They learn a Gemara with Mefarshim, with Rishonim, and the teacher expounds on what they're learning. But when the teacher is expounding on what they're learning, the teacher is telling them what he's learning, what he understands, what he was machadish. And clearly the teacher, the Rosh Yeshiva, is on a much higher level than the Talmidim, which means that the students have to work very hard to understand what it is that the teacher is saying. But if students effectively and consistently study the shiurim, learn what their teacher teaches them, with the proper patience and humility, by listening to a shiur after a shiur after a shiur from the same Rosh Yeshiva, they develop a derech. They learn how to learn from him. But he doesn't teach them how to learn. He simply teaches them how he learned. And because of their dedication to him and their willingness to work very hard to understand every single shiur, it molds their minds. So the Rebbe Rashab continues, but that was 50 years ago. Today, the Bachram don't have sufficient bittul. Consequently, says the Rebbe Rashab, Rosh Yeshiva, against shiurim is wasting his time. He's teaching, and he may be enjoying it. The students may be listening, but the instruction, the chinuch, the hadrochen limud, what they call a derech halimud, which is ideally what a student is supposed to get from a teacher in a yeshiva, is not going to happen by the Rosh Yeshiva telling the students how he understands. Instead, says the Rebbe Rashab, we need mashgichim, a mashgiach. What is a mashgiach? A mashgiach talks to the Talmud where the Talmud is holding. The mashgiach doesn't tell the Talmud what he understands. The mashgiach responds to the needs of the particular Talmud. And this is what the Rebbe Rashab told the previous Rebbe. We have to find people who, instead of bringing the students into their world of learning, should bring themselves to the students' world of learning. And of course, as the story continues, in Lubavitch they had what's called shulchanis, tishin. There were tables, there must have been pretty large tables. And the Rebbe Rashab didn't mind if Bachrim learned different subjects. Here they were learning Yeridei, here they were learning Chesha Mishpat, here they were learning Kotchim, here they were learning Moyed, Noshim, Nezikin. He had one requirement, that all the Bachrim sitting at the same shulchan should be learning the same thing. Because he very much wanted Pilpulat Talmidim. So if you were learning Bava Kama, you sat at a table of the Bachrim learning Bava Kama. These tables probably accommodated 10 or 12 or 14 Talmidim. When you read about how many tables they had and how many Bachrim they had, I think it was 18 tables for 300 Talmidim. You can do the math. It's more than 10 Talmidim per table. It's more like 15 Talmidim per table or even more. And they all learned the same subject. This was, by the way, the 18 tables, the 300 Talmidim was in the dining room. In the Beis Medrash, maybe it was different. This is a letter from the Rebbe Rashab. What does the letter teach us as it relates to our subject? The letter teaches us that there are two methods in instruction. One method in instruction is that the teacher says to the students what the teacher knows. The other method in instruction is a teacher says to the students what the students can hear. Which is better? And the answer, of course, is what's better is what works. If a teacher teaches students and the students don't learn, that's a mistake, has to be corrected. If students need the teacher to speak to them on their level, and instead of speaking to them on their level, the teacher is telling them his Chassidishe Torah, it's a waste of everybody's time. But if students are able to listen to the teacher and to spend whatever time needed to review the shiur until they understand precisely what the teacher said, b'meshach hazman, they will grow more than the mashgiach who speaks to the students on the level of the student. So it's two different models. One is the teacher stays where the teacher is and the student has to reach him. And the other is the teacher goes from where he is to the world of the student and reaches each student on his madrega and his level. And of course, you can quite easily understand that this is a mashal for Sovev. Sovev would be like the Rosh Yeshiva, and Memmale would be like the Mashgiach. And as the Rebbe would say so often by Fabrengenischen, ukefi sheyezbaya lekaman. We'll get back to this. I want to move on to something else. My second introduction. Lahavdil Elfalfi Avdalis. We have all kinds of chokhmah. Today there's all kinds of chokhmah chitzenius, all kinds of specialties that assess and interpret and define reality, knowledge. Science is a method that explores and questions, and analyzes and predicts and makes experiments and determines and so on. There's a method to how they prove or don't prove something is true or not true. What scientists do is they begin with what they call facts. What is a fact? We have a rock, and the rock has these and these dimensions, and there's this and this weight, which means it has this and this density. There could be another rock, it's exactly the same dimensions, that weighs twice as much, or half as much. And you look at these two rocks, and this is heavy, this is light, if they were exactly the same size. It's a question. That question leads you to speculate, to think of different reasons why this rock is heavier than this rock, and eventually they'll figure it out based on trial and error that there's different materials, different physical compounds that they wish to create, atoms and so on. And when something is made with a heavier material, it's denser. That means there's a greater concentration of matter per volume, per area, and therefore it's heavier, something like that. But the foundation of the scientific method is facts. What do we know? We know that so many and so many pounds of water will fit into a cube, into a square foot of water, for example. That's a fact. What do we know? You take that cube of water and you freeze it. What's going to happen? It's going to expand or it's going to get lighter. That's a fact. And then you study the facts. And the facts lead you to information that's not readily available. You don't see in the facts the knowledge, the chokhmah. You extrapolate, you study, you question, you analyze, you predict, and till you're able to determine what these facts reveal. So by starting off with facts, you can extrapolate back to the chokhmah, to the seichel, to what they would call the natural laws, the laws of nature, that are the basis for why this particular thing operates and exists in this particular way. If scientists had no facts, there could be no knowledge, no physical knowledge at least, because the facts are the basis, are the anchor for the theoretical ideas that radiate from those facts. Now, of course, you and I can debate whether a fact is factual or not, and it is actually more equivocal than people at the surface would acknowledge and would recognize. But to a very great degree, we call a whole body of material facts, unchanging, constant realities that are the basis for the knowledge which we're able to extract from those materials. This is a mashal. Then the nimshal, lahavdil. What are the facts of Torah? Torah is God's wisdom. But Torah isn't God's wisdom. Torah is God's wisdom that is dynamic, that every day, every month, every year, every decade, every generation, every century, every millennia, hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of Jewish people learn this Torah and extract new chokhmah. We call these new ideas of chokhmah Chassidishe Torah. That means new, original, novel ideas in Torah. Chassidishe Torah are real, they're real lamata, they're real lamayla, they're serious. Chassidishe Torah mitim is a very, very serious business of the greatest of the Jewish people, both in terms of their intellect as well as in terms of their piety. But in order for human beings to extract from the Torah new material, and we will say about those new ideas that it's divrei Elokim chayim, it's the words of the living God, or Hakel nitna l'meisha meisini, all comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it has to be anchored in facts. What are the facts that are the basis for all the original thoughts and chidushim that radiate from those facts, that because they are anchored, because they are linked to those facts, they're considered amitium, true, not equivocal? That's my question. And the answer is the oisius of Torah Shebeksav. The one thing in Judaism which doesn't change is the scripture, is the Tanakh, and the words and the letters. There's a precise number of words, precise number of letters in the Chumash, and to a great degree also in the Navi, as well as in the Ksuvim. And learning Torah ultimately comes down to interpreting psukim. We believe that every single word Torah Shebeksav is the word of God, and it's a fact. It has to be exactly as it's written. The Gemara says, "Ksei v'reitz litzit yav v'yite." Moshe Rabbeinu told HaKadosh Baruch Hu, some of what's being written in Torah Shebeksav is quite problematic, and Hashem said, it has to be this way. Bereishis bara lakim, not the lakim bara bereishis. If people are going to make mistakes, that's their business. This is how Torah has to be. These are facts that are unequivocal and unchanging. And all of Torah really is an analysis of these psukim. Now we know how complicated that is, because when we learn Gemara, we barely reference psukim. And so much of Torah Sheba'al Peh is based on Chachamim, Takonis, and Gzeidis, and Svaris. But the truth is, and you see this much, much more in Chassidus, in Pnimis HaTorah, than you see it in Likutei Torah, that ultimately all of Torah comes down to the psukim. According to Chassidus, even an asmachta is based on the pasuk. Even though it's halachically not so binding, it's considered the derabanan, but the pasuk is the basis for the asmachta as well. When the Gemara brings psukim for asmachtas, and then the Gemara says it's asmachta b'yalma, but it's only takanas chachamim, the emes is that the psukim are the basis for those asmachtas as well. The words of the Tanakh are facts. They cannot move them. And when you're studying Torah, what are you studying with studying Torah? When you're studying Torah, you're studying God's wisdom. How can you and I learn God's wisdom if God is infinite and His wisdom is infinite? And the answer is because God delivered that wisdom to us on the back of these oisies HaTorah, these letters and these words that are not changing. The letters are limited, the words are limited, they have very specific meanings and specific spellings and specific contexts and specific smichos, what they sit next to, what comes before and what comes after, all the klala we have of Torah. And these words and letters say, study me, analyze me, dissect me, extrapolate from me, and it's an endless process. Arucha me'eretz midorachava mini yom. Torah Sheba'al Peh will never be exhausted. You can always go back to the same facts and extrapolate additional chokhmah, new chokhmah, more chokhmah, deeper chokhmah, v'chuli, v'chuli, v'chuli. That's how Torah works. As I mentioned earlier, you see this especially in Chassidus, because Chassidus is Pnimius HaTorah, go straight back to the Tanakh. In other words, when you're a yeshiva bacher, and you learn Torah Sheba'al Peh, and obviously you're learning Torah Sheba'al Peh, let's say, for example, Masechta Brachas. And Masechta Brachas is based on Torah Shebeksav. V'hayu advarim ha'ela sherichim tzav chayim alav avecha is a mitzvah to say Krishma. When you're learning Gemara, very little attention is given to the psukim, which are the basis for the mitzvah. So much more attention is given to what the Rishonim make of the Gemara. In other words, we spend so much of our time analyzing layers of Torah Sheba'al Peh, and the link to Torah Shebeksav is secondary. That's just the way Lumdis, the way Nigla Torah works. When you learn a Maamar Chassidus, and you see this also in Zayar, you go straight back to the psukim. Chassidus goes on the psukim. You have Maamorim that go on the Gemaras, on the Chazals, but as a rule, they go directly to the Torah Shebeksav. So when you're learning a Maamar Chassidus, you're seeing clearly how Chassidus is saying, this is a pasuk, this is a passage of the Torah, these are my facts, this is my beginning, this is the truth that's absolute, and I'm going to extrapolate from these words because of how they're written and how they're arranged and how they're spelled, v'chuli, v'chuli, this and this and this and this, and you can go back to the same words and ask the same questions or different questions and come up with different interpretations ad infinitum. So Torah Shebeksav is the foundation of all of Torah, and not touching the Torah Shebeksav is the premise. In other words, recognize that Torah Shebeksav is the facts. And Imrei hu mikem, if there's something of those psukim that you don't understand, the problem is yours and not the Torah's, becomes the basis for how we learn Torah. So believing the Torah Shebeksav, as HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is very critical to understand the Torah, because if you believe that Torah Shebeksav is man-made and it's equivocal and it's subject to interpretation or modification or some kind of editing, the basis on which the whole Torah sits falls away. If the atheists of Torah Shebeksav are not absolutes, you don't have any facts, so it's equivocal. Everything goes in a circle. One of the psukim of Torah Shebeksav is 4 words, which is responsible for so many Memmale Chassidus. Involved, long, complex, intricate, deep. Memmale Chassidus revolve around 4 words in the Sefer of Malachi. Ani Hashem leishanisi. By the way, the pasuk has an end. Va'atem b'nei Yisrael leichilisem. But our Maamar doesn't talk about the second half of the pasuk, only the first 4 letters, words. Ani Havaya leishanisi. How many Memmale Chassidus, beginning with Tanya, in Perek Chof, and in the Gers in Sharichas Emunah, in Perek Zayin, Ubakama Makemes, are predicated on these 4 words. Ani Havaya leishanisi. These are 4 words. Ani means I. Havaya is a name of Hashem. Loi means negative, no. Shanisi, I have not changed. Ani Havaya leishanisi. I, Havaya, have not gone through any change. It's the pasuk. When we learn these 4 words, the one thing we know for sure is that these words are precise and true, and it's our job to understand them, not to change them, not to modify them. In order to understand them, you have to study each word. What does Ani mean? What does Havaya mean? What does Loi mean? And what does Shanisi mean? And so on. And by breaking down the 4 words into 4 individual words and studying each one, we can gain deeper and deeper insight into the spirit behind these 4 words, in the very many different interpretations of these 4 words that are all true. Not one is true and one is false. They're just different layers of the same truth. One of the things that one must interpret when translating the 4 words, Ani Havaya leishanisi, is you have to acknowledge you're talking about Havaya. Leishanisi means I haven't changed. If we are to understand leishanisi, we need to know who is Havaya. Ani Havaya, what is Havaya? Who is Havaya that is saying leishanisi? Of course, this was a class of children in a cheder. The Eibishter, Ani Havaya, I Hashem, Havaya, Eibishter, I haven't changed. Right? How many Memmale Chassidus, how many Hemsheich go on the pasuk Ani Hashem leishanisi and give so many different interpretations? The reason they give so many different interpretations is because there's so many different translations of the words Ani Havaya. Depending on the Havaya, the leishanisi changes. One Havaya has one kind of leishanisi, a different Havaya has a different kind of leishanisi. So if you want to study leishanisi, you have to study Ani Havaya. If you want to understand what it means, the Eibishter created a world, and in spite of the world it created, nothing besides for him exists as he existed before creation, you need to define Ani Havaya. If you know what Ani Havaya is, you can then define leishanisi. Now there's a letter from the Rebbe, which was written to Rabbi Zevin. I think it's from Tafshin Yud Zayin. It's a wonderful letter, where Rabbi Zevin, who was the Oirech, he was the editor of the Encyclopedia Talmudis, was doing the Erech of Askoris. I suppose it was Oizayim, but I could be wrong. In other words, names of Hashem they're not allowed to pronounce. And one of the things that was discussed in that Erech was Shem Havaya. So he wrote a letter to the Rebbe, and he asked the Rebbe for information on this. So they brought him back a letter, gave him a bunch of sources, and he actually included the sources in the footnotes in the encyclopedia. One of the few places where Memmale Chassidus are cited in the Encyclopedia Talmudis, which is the Encyclopedia of Halacha, is on the Shemus of HaKadosh Baruch. And what the Rebbe told him is that there's 3 translations of Havaya. And if there's 3 translations of Havaya, we're going to add, that means there going to be 3 different translations of leishanisi. Havaya could mean the Eibishter himself, Shema Etzem, Shema Mefurish, Shema Miyuchad. Havaya could mean Ein Sof, godliness, or in the language of this Maamar, Sovev Kolaman. And Havaya could mean Malchus, the Dvar Havaya that speaks the words of creation, in other words, Memmale Kolaman. And when you define Ani Havaya, you set up for how you're going to explain leishanisi. And logic dictates, and this is also true, that if the Havaya is higher, the leishanisi is more ideal. If the Havaya is lower, the leishanisi is more complex. So you have, for example, in Samach Vov, I think it's in the Maamar, Ki imcha makir chayim. I think, I'm not sure, but if it's not in Ki imcha makir chayim, it's in the fourth Maamar, which is B'shalach. Where the Rebbe Rasha brings any Havaya L'Shanisi. Havaya in that Maamar goes on the Eibishter himself, not in himself. And what's the pshat ani Havaya L'Shanisi? That the Eibishter creates the world through ha'ara. The whole creation happens from the light, and the light comes from the source with a capital T and a capital S by itself. And because the light comes from the source by itself, the source is L'Shanisi. The Eibishter is not at all affected by the fact that it's creating the world, because his involvement in the world is through Oir. That's one ani Havaya L'Shanisi. So if Havaya goes on the Eibishter, L'Shanisi means since he creates the world through a ha'ara, and the ha'ara is nimshach matas Memmale, in him there's no Shanisi. But what if you interpret that Havaya means Ein Sof? If ani Havaya L'Shanisi, Havaya doesn't go on the Eibishter, it goes on the Ein Sof. What does L'Shanisi mean now? You cannot say that Havaya, which is Ein Sof, is L'Shanisi because it's not involved in the creation. The whole point of Ein Sof is to be involved in the creation. The Eibishter himself, you could say L'Shanisi because the only involvement is a ha'ara. But Sovev Kalam and Ein Sof, how could you say a L'Shanisi means that Ein Sof is not involved? The whole point of the Gili of Ein Sof is to run and govern the world. And the answer is, Ani Havaya L'Shanisi is, like the Rosh Hashiva I described before. Ein Sof gives the world light. We get different increments of light. Some get more, some get less, some get one way, some get another way. But the difference is in the makabel only. Havaya is Ein Sof. There's one Ein Sof. In Ein Sof, L'Shanisi, there's no change. The fact that one perceives from the Ein Sof so much, and another perceives from the Ein Sof something else, and a third perceives from the Ein Sof something else still, is a shinui in the makablim, only in us, not in the Likus. So those are two different ani Havayas, where the Havaya means the Eibishter or Eibishterliness, Ein Sof, and accordingly, two different L'Shanisis. And I could go on and on and on. We could talk about Tzimtzum Shleik. Pshutik, it's very involved. There are many L'Shanisis because there's many Havayas. But I just wanted to share these two. That if Havaya means the Eibishter, L'Shanisi means everything is created from ha'ara. And if Havaya means Ein Sof, the shinuyim of the Ein Sof's hashpah on the world is not totally in the Ein Sof, it's totally in the world. But as far as the Ein Sof is concerned, it's one and the same every place. This second Havaya, where we say that there's one Ein Sof, we just perceive it in different amounts, and therefore to us it seems like there's different Ein Sof, different Havayas, even though it's only one, is a mashal for understanding in this Maamar Sovev Kalaman. Sovev Kalaman is one light that shines. Every body, every world gets from it what it's able to get, but the difference is only in us, not in the Eibishter. Memmale Kalaman is not found in the mashal as I gave it to you. In other words, if Havaya means either the Eibishter or Ein Sof, there is no Memmale Kalaman represented in these two ideas. You have to go on to something different. But the Ani Havaya L'Shanisi, which we're speaking of now, is going to explain Havaya means the Eibishter and Havaya means Ein Sof, which is a mashal for Sovev Kalam. So now that I gave you all of these introductions, let's move to the text and let's begin to read on line 14. Dehine. Kadesh Pirushay Muvdal. In the class of last week, we touched on the word Kadesh. Our Maamar begins with the word V'niktashti, and normally it means Mesiras Nefesh al Kiddush Hashem, and here it means saying Kedusha, Kadesh, Kadesh, Kadesh. What happens when a person says Kedusha? He's tapping into Kadesh, which is Lashon Havdalah, separated. The Hainu, what does it mean? That the Eibishter's relationship with this world is called Kadesh, is with a distance, with indirectness, Taich the Rebbe. When he brings the pasuk, Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi. These four words are diamonds. You cannot touch the word, you have to interpret the word. I Havaya, says Hashem, Lo Shanisi, you have not changed. Translates the Alter Rebbe, Shalai She'ein Shum Shini Etzla Yisbarach. There's no difference as far as he is concerned between how the world was before and after creation. We call this Tzimtzum Shalai Kipshut. Creation is really not what Hashem does. Creation is really about what Hashem undoes. Everything is God. When Hashem undoes that everything is God and leaves over something to appear or to be not God, that's a creation. Tzimtzum Shaleki Pshutei says that when the Eibishter undid what he is to create from part of him or his light a world, that world which appears to be separate from him is separate only in its own perception. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is still one with him. Tzimtzum Shaleki Pshutei. And that's the meaning of the statement. There's no difference before creation to after creation. Before creation, everything was one with him. After creation, everything continues to be one with him. The difference is only to us. The Rambam writes that by the Eibishter, there's no chiluk zwischen Over, Heve, and Osid. There's no time. And therefore, any event that's ever occurred, ever will occur, is occurring concurrently at every moment. Every second, every single event is happening. So there's nothing new. If tomorrow you're going to be a lottery ticket, today the lottery ticket is also born, and it was been bought from the beginning of time. So there's no changes. This means there's no change and there's no effect. The world does not change him, touch him. For the creation of the worlds, as the pasuk says, I am before, I am after, and I am during. Why is this? He's separated from the worlds, and separated can also be in Hebrew Sovev, hidden, removed. Because the Eibish's relationship with the world is from Oyer, light, and light relationship from the world is from Sovev, is from hiddenness, from distance, from indirectness. And therefore, in as much as the world is concerned, there's no Shinui. Dahainu, this means, when you say that Havaya, and you mean Oid Ein Sof, is Leishanisi, is not changed or affected or responding to the relationship between itself and the world, says the Alter Rebbe, this means that the fact that godliness gives life and creation to the worlds, is different than how a soul gives life to a body. And the Alter Rebbe goes now into a discussion about neshama and guf. Neshama and guf, says the Alter Rebbe, is different than Eid Ein Sof and Elamis. And I'm going to tell it to you up front, Eid Ein Sof and Elamis is a mashal for Sovev Kalamin, and neshama and guf is a mashal for Memmale Kalamin. But in the meantime, we're saying Eid Ein Sof is Leisha Nisi, is influencing the world without changing, and neshama and guf, the guf has an effect on the neshama. And the Alter Rebbe explains, in the relation between the body and the soul and the body fuse, they converge and they become one. In a way called hislapshus. Hislapshus means the neshama reveals itself in the body, in order to give it life. And the concept is, when the neshama goes into the guf, into the body, and the body is limited, and the body is complex, and the body is diverse, and the life of the soul limits itself because of the body's limitation. It divides itself. It makes adaptations to the individual aspects of the body to give life in a limited and individuated way. You should know that the change is not only in the body, the change is in the neshama itself. The neshama has within itself, to use the words of the Alter Rebbe in Tanya chapter 51, Tayag mini keches v'chayes. The neshama is not simple, it's complex. The neshama has a different little piece for each limb and each eva, each gid, each nerve, each sinew, each vein, artery of the body. And the neshama's adaptation to the guf isn't only that the guf takes different things from the neshama, but that the neshama gives different things to the body, because the neshama is like the mashgiach, going back to the mashal, that gives different things, different parts of the body. The neshama is gripped, is grasped by the body, and it isn't only that the body holds on to the neshama, but that the body changes the neshama to suit itself. And the reason the body changes the neshama to suit itself, because the potential for change exists in the neshama by itself. The life that comes from the neshama to the body is divided. Which radiates from the neshama, behaguf into the body, legimel chalak, up to three parts. And the difference of these parts is not only in the guf, it's already in the neshama. Now here he's going to call it the reish guf and regel, which is the higher part of the body, the middle part of the body. That means the head and the torso. And then what's below the diaphragm, the ivarya ikol and hazon, the limbs and organs of metabolism and so on. And of course in the nimshal it's chabad, chagas, nehi, or neshama, ruach, nefesh. Neshama is in the mayach, ruach is in the leiv, and nefesh is in the kaved. And the point of the Alter Rebbe is that the differences between how life gives life to one part of the body, another part of the body, is not only as far as the guf is concerned, but the neshama also has these divisions. Shehu, what are the three parts? There's one kind of life which is in the brain, which is in the head. A different kind of life which is in the body. And a third kind of life is in the legs. And he explains, the life in the head and the brain is much higher than the life which is in the torso, in the heart and the lungs, the chest and the arms. Everybody sees this obviously. You talk about the head of a person who called pnimius achayis, is the place where you have what's called pnimius achayis. Listen to my translation. Pnimius means greater revelation, maximum revelation. Life is spiritual. Pnimius achayis means where you see the spirituality of life. The spirituality of life is seen where? In the intelligence and in the senses. Seeing, hearing, smelling, and tasting are all in the head. So there's more life, meaning to say not only is there greater quantity of life in the head than in other parts of the body, there's greater expression of the quality of what life is, which is spirituality. The hainu, because in the head you have ke'ech hamachshava, the power of thought, v'aseichel and creativity, v'achushim and the senses, hamulim that are higher, sheveponim which exist in the face, riyesh me'evachulu, seeing, hearing, smelling, and tasting. As opposed to line 24, v'achayez sheba'aguf, the vitality of the middle part of the body, the torso, which is the chest, the heart, and the lungs, and the arms, is lamata mevachinazu, is a lower level. The hainu in different words, shasham, mishkan amida shebalev. In the chest and the heart you have the emotions, shem lamata me'aseichel, which are far lower than one's intelligence. Now, of course, the question has been asked by 1,000 people. The simplest organ in the entire body is the heart. It's a pump. Not only is the heart not sophisticated, it's less sophisticated than almost any other limb. And in Chassidus, we make the heart the seat of human emotions. And of course, people who study biology will tell you it's not true. Emotions are also in the brain. And of course, there's a lot of different answers to this question. One of them is that the heart shows the emotion, because when you're emotional, the heart races. And another answer, which is probably more accurate, is because you need to understand how Chassidus views the concept of emotions philosophically. And in a word, the emotions are associated with heat. Intellect is associated with coolness, lach and kar, and the heart is associated with heat. And emotions generate heat. And as far as this is concerned, it makes complete sense that the heart is the seat of emotions, because the heart is all about the blood, and the blood is all about heat. The middle part of the body is also responsible for the hands and the fingers, which can do all kinds of creative things. Nevertheless, hulamata b'madrega is a lower step min achushim shebeponim than the senses which are in the face, the iyesh miyah v'cholu, seeing, hearing, and so forth. And line 26, then you get to the lower third of the person. The life is further reduced, further diminished, than the life which exists in the middle part of the body. Why is it that there's different life in one part of the body than another part of the body? And the key is, the difference is not only what the body takes from the neshama, but what the neshama gives the body. In other words, don't think of life like electricity. That electricity is used for all machines. Sometimes you have to use more electricity, sometimes you have to use less electricity, but electricity is one thing. Neshama is not electricity, it's life, and it's different life. There's one kind of life for the Chochma part of the brain, a different kind of life for the Bina part of the brain, one kind of life for the power of seeing, and the other kind of life for the power of hearing, and the same is true with emotions and so on. The neshama rests first of all in the brain and in the head, and therefore you have hachayis and pnimius yesa. You have more life and more revelation of what's called the pnimius, the spirituality of that life. Because more of what the neshama is in its spirituality is revealed there. From a lowest level of the life as it exists in the head. Is in the middle part of the body. Therefore, the life which is in the torso, is is less in quantity and in terms of its revealing and reflecting spirituality from the life which is in the head. And the same is true when you compare the second third of the body, the torso and the arms, to the lower third of the body, which is the pelvis and the legs and the intestines and so on. Hare, says the Rebbe on line 30, there is one nefesh. But when the life radiates from this mahus, from this spiritual form, which is nefesh, it breaks itself up into three broad subdivisions: head, body, and legs. To be sure, there's actually many more than three parts. Each one of those three is further divided until you have Ramach Evidim and Shesagidim Ach Bechlalim Gimel. But in general, there are three, and three is enough for our purposes. The point we want to make is that Neshama and Guf is not like a Rosh Yeshiva who says what's in his mind and everybody takes something different. Neshama is like the Mashgiach who gives everybody something different based on where they are. Says the Rebbe, and the differences in the criteria of one life in one part of the body and another life in a different part of the body, who mitzad shinui gilui hachayes animshach lahem mehanefesh. The differences is already in the neshama. You have the differences between part A and part B. In the head is a higher aspect of nefesh. In other words, nefesh is giving more, and in the body is a lesser part, and so forth. Line 34. Thus, the relationship between the neshama and the guf is perfect fusion. The neshama and the guf converge in such a way where the body is in perfect harmony with the neshama, because the neshama designs itself, adapts itself to the body's specific conditioning and limitations and diversity and so forth. And as a consequence, this life divides itself up, which radiates from the nefesh, and is held and is grasped in the specificity of the body's parts. According to the differences between one part of the body and another part of the body. Since the head is higher from the body, they get more life from the neshama. It's really hamachshava. There's a canal, the power of thought and intelligence and so forth and so on. And again, the difference is not only in the body, it's in the neshama. So he gave us a mashal, which has lasted from line 18 until line 36. That's 18 lines of mashal. And the point of the 18 lines of mashal is that neshama and guf is diversified. And the diversity is not only from the body, the diversity is in the neshama as well. As opposed to godliness, in as much as godliness gives life to the world, and now we're talking about Ein Sof, Ein Kain, this is not the case. There's not different types of Ein Sof. There's one Ein Sof, there's no divisions. There's no such thing as head and feet. There's no diversity, there's no distinction, there's oneness. He's the highest and he's the lowest and everything in between. Why is this? that though the Eibishter is giving godliness to every world and every realm, but eine mislabesh, that means it does not reveal itself, it does not adapt itself, it does not specialize itself, klal at all, b'teicha elames in the worlds. In other words, there's one Ein Sof, and the Ein Sof shines everywhere. Now you may get more, you may get less, but if you get more Ein Sof or you get less Ein Sof, the difference is not in the Ein Sof, the difference is only in you. Mashvalei k'meisha neshama, which is mislabeshes beguf kana, as opposed to the neshama. The neshama adapts to the body, and the adaptation is not only because of the body's diversity, it's because of the neshama's diversity. Ein Sof may appear to be revealed in different worlds in different ways, but all of the adaptation, all of the changes in the keli is in the world, and not in the Ein Sof. Line 4 of V'lihiyes came, since this is the case. There are no divisions, there's no different types, in the life of godliness, which creates the world. Because the concept of subdivisions is mitzad ha'eslapshus kanal. If there would be a real revealing of light and vessels, there would need to be real adapting of the light to the vessel. But it's not really revealed, and it's not really adapted. If the brain or the vessel is higher, has to be greater life, greater light, greater neshama. But that's only on the level we're talking about life. What does life mean? Life that adapts to the body, where the adaptations are in the life itself, which is revealed in the vessels. In order for the life to be completely revealed in the vessels, the life has to be limited and changed according to the limitations of the vessels. And therefore, shayach le'makain, you could say his slapshus, and you could say his chalkus. How many different types of life are there? The answer is how many different types of bodies there are. Mashenkin be'yizbarach, we're talking about the Ein Sof and godliness. That although he's giving life to the worlds, but ein yadei shemislabish. Godliness is not at all adapting, it's not at all revealing, b'teichan, according to the limitations of the various worlds and levels, klal whatsoever. Hilchach, therefore, l'sheich klal. There is no possibility whatsoever for shum his chalkos klal, no subdivisions in the godliness whatsoever. Klal v'ikin at all, gam behachayis shenimshach mimenu, even though life is coming from godliness, which is lachayesim, to give life to the worlds, kivan shenim mislavish b'teichon, but the godliness is not fully revealing itself in the vessels, and accordingly the differences between what one world gets and another world gets is only because of the vessels, not at all because of the godliness. This is the meaning of calling godliness holy. What does holy mean? That the godly light, which is creating and sustaining the world, does it from a distance. It does it from a place of separation. Godliness goes into the world, but it doesn't change. Now the world may take of the godliness one thing or another, but as far as the godliness is concerned, there's no distinctions. It gives life and creation. In each world may ayin from a non-existential state into an existential state. Im kol zeh einim eslavish b'teichen b'chulu, it's not revealed. Ulefichach ein shum shinu v'espayla, there's no change, there's no effect. Etzli is barach mehabriya, from the world on Hashem. In Chassidus they say, when you bang your hand and you say ow, the neshama says ow, because the neshama feels the pain. The reason the neshama feels the pain is because the neshama is in the body. Ein Sof gives life to the body, but it's not fusing with the body, it's remaining what it is. And therefore, when the keli hurts, the air does not hurt. The body responds, the soul responds to the events of the body. When the body feels, the neshama feels. When the body changes, the neshama changes. When the body reacts, the neshama reacts. Now I have to tell you something. We have a moshel and a nimshel. The nimshel is Ein Sof, the moshel is neshama. But they're not the same, right? The whole point is that the nimshel is different than the moshel. That in the nimshel, Ein Sof is lei shanisi. And the moshel of chayis is shanisi v'shanisi. You need to understand that this is actually two levels. The moshel of the neshama is true l'mayla in Memmale kalam. The idea that Ein Sof is lei shanisi is true l'mayla in Sovev kalam. In other words, even though it seems like the Alter Rebbe is talking about godliness, and say that godliness is leishanisi, and contrasting it with chayis, you will see momentarily that he's going to change. And he's going to admit that in Ein Sof there is also hislapshus. There's a level in godliness which also changes according to the worlds, which is truly comparable to the relationship between the neshama and the guf, and that's Memmale kalam. In other words, so far we tried to separate the neshama and the guf from Ein Sof and Kelim. Now we're going to say there's two madregas in godliness. The higher madrega of godliness is like Eid and Keli, where there's no adaptation. And the lower level of godliness, which is called Memmale kalalman, is like neshama and guf. And the Rebbe begins on line 48, and have a kasha on myself. We just said that Ein Sof relates to the world without changing, while the neshama relates to the guf and does change. All of us see in the creation that Yesh Gamkin is Chalkas, is the fetish divisions of madregis, of steps, Ein Ketz, which have no limit. What's ishtalshalos means? A chain reaction of worlds. A chain reaction of worlds means there's higher worlds and lower worlds. And in each world, godliness is not only present, but godliness is revealed. If godliness is revealed, that means we're receiving it. That means if we're receiving it in different increments, according to our ability. Doesn't that sound like change? Even in this world alone, there's different levels of there's a level of life which is called still and quiet, a level of life which grows, a level of life which is excitable, and a level of life which is intelligent and can speak. And on a bigger scale, just like in the mushal of a person's body, the same is true in world that there's three worlds. As the pasuk says, you have three words. B'rasav is bria, Yitatev is Yetzira, and Afasisiv is Asiya. Shein Gimel Elam is Kloliim, Obehem Pratim Rab. These are three worlds of Asiya, Yetzira, and Bria. In other words, Ganeden Ha'elyon, which is Bria, Ganeden Ha'tachta, which is Yetzira, and Elam Hazeh, which is Asiya. V'umamish, and it mirrors precisely. Al derech moshel, by way of analogy, the subdivisions of life that diversify and sustain different parts of the body in different ways. That in basic terms it's divided into three parts. Reish, gover, regel, head, the torso, and legs. And specifically is divided up into hundreds of parts. Similarly, this world is the footstool of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, linked to regel. The lower Ganeden Shukamashal Aguf is comparable to the torso, to the middle part of the body. Shesham Mishkan Amidah, which is the seat of the emotions in the heart. V'kach Neida, it says in Kabbalah, Sfarim, the Shitz, Feed, and Makan, Nabi Yitzira, the Neila might save the Midas. The Hainu, this means, in other words, Shesham, and Neila Yitzira's Gili, Midas of Yizbarach, is the revelation of Hashem's measure, Hashem's emotions. Chesed v'choli. And to whatever extent necessary or whatever extent possible, the midas of Yetzirah are inspired by intelligence. While the Ganed Na'elye, the higher Ganed, which is Elam Abriya, Sham Gili Bechinas Chabad, Atzman. That's the revelation of what we call Mechen Be'etzem. Intelligence has nothing to do with response and emotions. Be'in Sav Baruch Hu L'Neshamas HaYeshu. To those neshamas who are fortunate enough to sit, v'nen and miziv, and enjoying the rays of God's light in Elam Abriya. V'ukmei derech moshel, living in Elam Abriya would be the equivalent of haresh, the head shebei mishkan haseichel. We have the seat of one's intelligence. So the question is simple. Ve'im kein muvam is that, so it's obvious from this. Shahachayes hanimshach mimenu yizbarach be'elamis. That even in creation, and we say that Hashem is giving life to the creations, is Gam Kem is Chalek. There's divisions. Not like we said earlier that there's one godliness, we just get it in different increments. But there's many godlinesses, because godliness is revealed, as I'm going to explain in a minute. That Gam Kem is Chalek B'teichen. It also has divisions, the Chilukim Madreges into parts, Kemei al Derech Mashal, like we said in the previous Pedic, Chayes HaMispashet, Meha Nefesh B'Haguf. When we spoke about the neshama and the guf, we say that the neshama's adaptations to the guf are divisions and diversifications. Kaniskel els we discussed earlier. Va'eschalkos nimshach, and the divisions happen. Mitzad ha'eslapshas bekelim, we go into the vessels. And because they're revealed in the vessels, the changes in the light as well. Says the Rebbe, the same is true l'mayla. V'im kein nire. it's quite evident that the life of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which goes into the world to give it life, is also mislabed b'teichem, is also revealed. And therefore, how could we say that godliness gives life to the world in a way of leishanisi, and the neshama gives life to a body in a way of shanisi v'shanisi? In godliness also there's a shanisi. And the Rebbe says on line 61, the Gemara says in Brachas, Shadimu, that they make the comparison of Hamshach HaZachayis Meni Yizbarach LaElemes. If you want to understand how Hashem gives life to His world, they compare it, let's say that Hamshach HaZachayis Me'anefesh Ba'aguf, to when a Neshama goes into a body. As it says in the Gemara, Hashem fills the world like a soul fills the body. Exactly the opposite. As the soul fills the body, HaKadosh Baruch Hu fills this world. Says that everybody knows that. When we talk about the neshama's relationship with the body, the neshama is revealed in the body and gripped by the body, because the neshama adapts to the body, mamish, kanal. So there's different life for different aspects. V'im kain, since this medrash compares Hashem's creating and giving life to the worlds, to the neshama and the guf, medamim kain inyan islapshus hachayis mimene yizbarach ba'elamis. We correlate the relationship between the neshama and the guf and the Eibishter in His world. And that's the question. V'zehu l'chayre heipich. This is exactly the opposite. Mimashin is bayer with how we started today's shir, and how to begin today's shir. To Yizbarach Kadosh moved, Hashem is removed, and therefore Umachayes Ha'elam, He gives life to the world, Shalaya Dislapshus, without revealing Himself and adapting Himself to the worlds. Chas v'shalom. V'hu klal godel b'teira. This is a basic rule in Teira, which was represented earlier in the Maamar by the pasuk Ani Avaya Leishanisi. And now he represents it by the Lashon Hazayar, Iyu Tafes Bakula Alman V'leisman the Tafes Bey. He holds the world, but the worlds don't hold him. Notwithstanding, he's invested in the world knows nothing of him. So we have, in effect, a contradiction. Is it Leishanisi, like it says in the Pasuk in Malachi? Is it Leisman the Tafes Bey, like it says in Zayar? Or is it, like it says in the Medrash Tilim, HaNeshama Ma'as HaGuf HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ma'as Elam? Make up your mind. Does godliness adapt to worldliness the way neshama adapts to guf, which is like change? Or does godliness not adapt to body, and we call it Kadosh Navdallah because it's not making any adaptations? Which is true? And of course the answer is going to be both. Acha inyan, the teretz is, the vadai, there's no doubt that yesh bechinas chayes, there's a level of life, hamislabish b'ha'elames, which is revealed in the worlds, b'pnimiyusa mamish, in an internal way, umischalek chiluke madregis, and divides itself up on the neshama end, on the life end, not only on the keli and the body end, which is kimoshal ischalkos chayes and nefesh b'guf, like the neshama and the body. In other words, there's two godlinesses. There's the godliness of leishanisi, there's the godliness of leis tfisa bei klal, and there's the godliness of a neshama, Ma'as HaGuf HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ma'as Ha'elam. And it's the two madrigas of Memmale Kalaman and Sovev Kalaman. Achlol is bechinas chay, is at this level of life, which is like the neshama and the guf, which does make the adaptations. Is rak bechin amislabash be'elamis, which is revealed in the world. Is rak bechin ziv hashchina levad. It's only a ray of the shchina, and shchina is already a ray of godliness. Ziv dafka, a ray mebechinas, and shchina from the level of shchina. Shchina is the lowest level, and Memmale Kalaman is a ha'ara of shchina. Who one yikra gamkin Memmale Kalaman. This is called Memmale Kalaman. Now the literal translation of the word Memmale Kalaman is revealed in the worlds. Memmale means revealed, just like Eslapshus means revealed. Pirush, and it means Shachayis Shanim Shachamenu Yizbarach, the life which comes from Him. Le'eslabish, to reveal itself, b'teichias ha'elam, is inside of the worlds. Mamish hurak b'chinazi v'hara lavad, is only a ray and a trace. Me'ashchina baruch hu, from the level of godliness called shchina. Shebechina ziv zeh, that this ray of shchina is hanim shachli yes memmale, is brought down to be revealed and to make adaptations. Kol alman, into each world in a different way. And as far as this is concerned, you would say his spilus and you would say shanisi. Ubechinas Islapshus Ve'eschalkos, this revealing causes a division. L'chol Eilam Kefi Madrega, so each world according to its level. B'Gan Eden Elyon Kach, and the higher Gan Eden this way, and the lower Gan Eden another way. V'chol. Ve'hu Bechinas Ziv. V'hini Bechinas Ziv Zeh Shu Bechinas Memmale Kalam. This ray, which is called Memmale, who anika alma disgalia b'zeh. It's a level of a world which is revealed. Revealed means we know what it is because it adapts itself to limit itself to us. I'm going to explain this later. Why is it that just like when the neshama goes into the guf, the neshama adapts to each body and body part? Similarly, in the nimshal, Memmale Kalaman goes into each world, and it makes adaptations to each world and each aspect. This is the level of godliness, which is the same as the neshama. And the pasuk says, if you want to understand life, study the person. Study your own body, study the relationship between your neshama and a guf, and you'll understand godliness and worldliness. You could see it by studying yourself. You can see godliness. What do you gain by studying yourself? You understand that you're alive, which means you're not just flesh and blood, but there's a neshama inside, and that the neshama and this body and flesh and blood adapt to each other to achieve an incredible harmony. By studying that model, by studying that mushal, you can understand how the Eibishter gives life to the world. What does it mean? You look at your body and you can see godliness is just when we look at your flesh. No one's ever seen the neshama because it's not physical, it's spiritual. But we know it's there. And we know it's there with such a clarity and a certainty, like as if we could see it, though we never saw it. Which is life to the body, that this nefesh, which no one has ever seen, when the neshama leaves the body, the body becomes a peged, a cadaver, a corpse, like a piece of stone. Because the body by itself is a lump of, a boiling sack of meat and bones, as the Rabbi used to say. And its viability, its purpose, its usefulness, its vitality and life isn't in the neshama. More or less, we see this when a person goes to sleep, that most of the neshama is pnimius. Spiritual qualities departs. A little bit of life remains. In the morning you wake up again. The Gemara compares it a little bit to death. And when you're asleep, you see what it means that you are a spiritual being. And you see what it means when the spirituality within you departs. Which is why every morning when you wake up, you say the same bracha again. We give him back life to to dead bodies. But it isn't true. Hashem is not going to give back life to dead bodies until Tchias HaMesim. Every morning it's not Tchias HaMesim, it's simply waking up. It says the Rebbe B'chol Yom every morning. The life is renewed. The human being is a new creation. Even though he didn't pass away, because during the time of sleep, there was the stalkos of the Gili Pnimius HaChayas. Nobody can see the neshama physically. Nevertheless, it's impossible to deny that it exists. The soul is in the body in a revealed way. We see the effect of the neshama being in the guf. The body lived because of it. The guf by itself is a guf, it's a piece of stone. The neshama departs, there's nothing left in terms of spirituality, life, and meaning and purpose. So by looking at the body, you see something you cannot see. Accordingly, though you can see the neshama, the evidence for the soul is undeniable. Because since we see we see the body, and we see that the body is alive, and we understand that it's alive because the neshama is revealed in the body, that we don't see the neshama itself, nevertheless, through the guf we know the neshama. I'm sure you've heard the joke 1,000 times, that during the years of the Soviet regime, where the Soviets understood the main Gedolim and Yoshim, and they invested everything into education, into indoctrinating the youth in the ways of communism. And of course, at the center of that philosophy was atheism. So there was a Jewish kid whose parents were frum, who went to public school, and he would miss Shabbos, he would miss Yom Kippur, but he managed. And the teacher found out that he believes in God. So when he came to school the next day, the teacher made fun of him in front of the whole class. Right? Everybody knows that you can only see things that you can see. And this child believes in something which nobody's ever seen. And he said, hey, everybody laughed. So when he finished, this little boy gets up and he says, has anybody ever seen the teacher's brains? No one's ever seen the brains of the teacher. Why not? Because he doesn't have any, and everybody laughed. That's the story. And it's more than a joke. It's a lot more than a joke. The point is, the neshama is so clearly evident in the world that it's an undeniable fact, and it's only because it's revealed. Revealed means it's specialized, it's tailored, it's personalized, and so forth. Line 87, this is how we see godliness. What we can see with our physical eyes. Pa'ale, the effect of the neshama. The neshama you cannot see, but its influence you can see. Hanira, which is visible. The world is a big body. Chai, which is living. And just like in the small person, in the elam katan, the neshama gives life to the guf, otherwise the guf would die. The same is true also in the elam hagadol. There has to be in the world life. Moreover, this life has to be hamachayes, which gives them life. And in what way? Just as we know the neshama, by the influence, by the effect, by the revelation, by the specialization, by the adaptations to the guf. As we see life in this world, just like it is in the body, the same is also true in the world. I should read it again. Just like in the physical world, we see these adaptations. We understand as well. The creations in the higher worlds, and we can see and apprehend intellectually. But yes, it's ace more that they're alive. And the Rebbe goes again. This is the pshat mibisari. You look at the physical body, you see God. That mibisari dafka from the physical person. That just like from my flesh, I feel and I see. Hanefesh and asata bi my neshama. Kach. Similarly, I will witness godliness. He hislapshus. It's the revelation of hachayis of life. Bechinas Memmale kalaman, the level of Memmale kalaman. Hanimshach my ein save baruch, which comes from godliness. Betechiyes ha'elames, in a way that's revealed within the world's mamish. Kimesha neshama maleyes kol haguf, like the neshama gives life to the body. V'kach accordingly, or similarly, chayezeh, the godly life, mischalek or gimel bechinas klolium, is divided up into three basic worlds: Gan Eden Elyon, Gan Eden Atachna, Elam Hazeh, which is Bria, Yetzid, and Asiya. Says the Rebbe, L'chein Nika bechinas Memmale kalaman alman Galia. In short, he's changing his mind. He started off with a premise, and the premise is Ani Havaya Leishanisi. Ani Havaya Leishanisi means godliness, and now he's saying there's two godlinesses. There continues to be the godliness which is called Kaddish, Leishanisi, Sovev Kalaman. But in addition, there's a godliness which is Ma, Neshama, Memmale Saguf, Kacha Kadosh Baruch, Memmale Elam, which is Memmale Kalaman. And the Rebbe says, going back full circle now, however, even though I changed my mind in Sif Beis of what I said in Sif Aleph, Sif Aleph said, Ani Havaya Leishanisi. Godliness makes no adaptations. It's Sovev Kalaman. Sif Beis told us Memmale Kalaman, that the godliness does make an adaptation. He says, let's not get confused. They're not contradictory. The life which comes from Memmale Kalaman is Akar Viziv, is a lower level, is a trace. Ba'al Moziv Ashkin. Aval Hu Yizbarach Atzmei, the Eibishter himself. And again, here, Hu Yizbarach Atzmei, which is called in the Pasuk Havaya, means Ein Sof, not Atzmut. Hu Kadosh Muvdal. Godliness is holy and removed. In other words, She'eini Mislabesh Chas V'Sholem B'Teicha Elamei. It doesn't reveal itself in the worlds whatsoever. And from the level of godliness, which is not at all revealed in the worlds, something is introduced to the worlds, to give life, the primary source of life, which is the concept of yesh mayayin, which I'm going to get to later on. Eine mislabesh b'teichon klal is not in a way of revelation, ella, but rather mechaye umahaves, and he gives life and existence, shalayai de'eslabshus, without a revelation, which is v'zeu b'chinas Sovev kalaman. So the godliness of Sovev kalaman sustains the world, what the Rebbe calls here Iker HaChayis, and is totally hidden. The godliness of Memmale kalaman, which is the secondary Chayis, this can be compared to the Neshama and the Guf, where there's divisions, not just from the world's end, but from the Chayis' end. And this is what I meant, says the Alter Rebbe, when I said in Perek Aleph, Ani Hashem leis hanisi, leis machshavat, leis tfisa beiklal, Shachayis, Shu Yizbarach HaMachaya Elam, is the life that comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to give life to the worlds. A nekedim yenshan nefesh mechayes, a guf cannot be compared to the way the neshama gives life to the body. Why not? Kihu Yizbarach Machaya Esan, when Hashem gives life from Sovev Kalal, it's afal pisheinim mislabish, it's without being revealed b'teichen inside of them at all. Like b'china Sovev Makev, which means hidden and indirect, aleim on the worlds. And the only level of life which we can feel, and we see the adaptations, and a secondary light, shenimshech as b'bechinas Memmale kalaman, which is revealed in the world, which is ziva ha'ara levad b'bechinas Sovev kalaman. It's a light of a light. Sovev kalaman is ein sof, ermein amoyer. Memmale kalaman is ha'ara, the ha'ara ershel tul, the ha'ara nevdelis. From Sovev kalaman, as you're going to see in Mitzvah Hashem. In the shir after next, right? Not class 3 as you have it on your PDF, but in class 4, he's going to explain the mashal for Sovev Kalama, which is Ein Mein HaMoyer, and the mashal of Memmale Kalama, which is Ein, which is a Shina Mahus from the Moyer. V'hilkuch therefore, I'm on line 102, in Shayach Bei Shum Shini Adei Abriya. In as much as Sovev Kalaman is concerned, there is no change in the Oyer by the world. V'lei, as opposed to that the soul responds to the body, and in the Nimshal, Memmale Kalaman responds to the world. It's completely revealed in the body. That's also true, but that's only a ha'ar, it's a lower level. And therefore both things are true. Sovev Kalaman, in the higher level of godliness, ein shayches chalkos, there's no divisions of reish v'seif, my low mata. Head and feet, high, low. Kivan she'ein mislabish, it's not revealed by elamis in the worlds at all. Therefore, there's no shinui. V'dashakos, it says in the pasuk Yiniskav Shmei, the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But it's the light of Sovev Kalaman, is Niskav, is removed. Hoidai, a trace of that light, which is Memmale. So Shmoi goes on Sovev, and Hoide goes on Memmale, is Aleret v'Shamoyim, adapts to the distinction between heaven and earth. Shmei itself, the Eibish's name is Ein Sof Sovev Kalaman is Leishanisi. Hoid from Shmoi is Memmale Kalaman, which makes the adaptations. Who mislabish is revealed ba'aretz in the earth in one way, v'shamayim in the heaven in a different way, la'achayesam to give them life. And that's where you have u'mischalek lechalakim canal divisions. Avol shmei atzmei Sovev Kalaman, the light of Hashem, which is Mein HaMoed itself, although it creates and gives life, but it does so in a way of kadosh and muvdal v'niskav levada, hidden, holy, removed. The pasuk says that Sovev Kalaman's relationship to the world is indirect. When Sovev Kalaman creates, it cannot be done through a series of steps which can be explained logically, according to the principles of the law of causality. Because Sovev Kalaman is responsible for the quantum leaps of Yesh Mayayin. As opposed to the concept of Ilav Yol. From the mind, a heart, an emotion emerges. And from the heart, thoughts, which is that each one of these steps is an adaptation, is a tzimtzum, because the chayis is mislabish in the guf, in the head and in the heart and so forth, and in the nimshal goes on Memmale Kalaman. Mash'enkin hu yizbarach b'chein Sovev Kalaman, level of godliness which is Sovev Kalaman. Is einei nitfas b'ha'elim, as the worlds don't have it, even though it gives them life. The world has no idea who created it because it's yesh me'ayin. And on this higher level of life, so the Rebbe started off with a statement, then he, so to speak, had to complicate the statement, and where we're standing right now is where the Eibusha gives life to the world. The Iker Achayis is from Sovev Kalama, which is Leishanisi. Line 113, V'lachein ksiv ani ad Hashem Leishanisi, Havaya Sovev Kalama, doesn't change in creation. And V'atahu, that Sovev Kalama is Kedem Shnivra Elam, Shnivra Elam, Hakal B'Shava, there's no change, because you're talking about Sovev Kalama. The fact that we feel and experience life, which is a symptom of Memmale, a symptom of his slapshus and his chalkus. This is Memmale Kalamim, which is a adaptation, which is a symptom from Sovev Kalam. Now let me tell you what's going to happen. Next week we're going to have another shiur. And I suspect that next week we're going to learn no text. I am simply going to explore Memmale Kalam and Sovev Kalam more based on what's written in other Maamorim. And I'm going to, so to speak, give more order, more structure to this shtickle based on what says in Maamorim of the later Rabbi. But to conclude, the Rebbe started off by contrasting Ein Sof from the Neshama, and he concludes by saying that there's two levels. There's a level of Ein Sof which is different than the Neshama, and there's a level of Ein Sof which is like the Neshama. So I want to whisper a secret into your ear. Just like in godliness, there's two levels. A level which is not like the Neshama, and a level which is like the Neshama. In the Neshama, there's two levels, just like godliness. The Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama in the Neshama are like Memmale Kalam, and the Chaya Yechid are like Sovev Kalam. In other words, he starts out by drawing distinctions, but in the end it's going to be the same on all levels. The Memmale Kalam is what you feel in the world, which is revealed in the world, which is parallel to the Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama in the person. And the Sovev Kalam, which is like the Chaya Yechida of the Neshama, which also is in the guf, but without adaptations and revelations, b'chulu. So, in fact, the parallel between the neshama and the guf and the chayes alkiyan world is both on the level of Sovev Kalaman as well as on the level of Memmale Kalaman, and we will visit this and study this and analyze this much more with the help of God, of course, but Liadi next week.